Welcome back to Cliffhangers and Page Turners. We are going deep on a classic this week. This time it's The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton.
Oh, a classic.
Oh yeah, this one's been around, forever, right? Since 1967.
Wow.
And Hinton wrote it when she was only 16.
Really?
Yeah, isn't that wild? It just blows my mind. It's crazy how she captured all that, social tension and the feeling of needing to belong and figuring out who you are. And then there's all the loss.
It's a lot for a teenager to handle, both in life and in writing.
Seriously. This book just grabs you right from the start and doesn't let go.
It's true.
These excerpts we picked, they really put you right there with the greasers. You feel like you know them.
It's amazing how she brings them to life.
Oh, totally. It's like she doesn't just tell you about them, but she makes you feel like you're right there with them. The way she describes how they look, their personalities.
Yeah, it's like you're watching a movie in your head.
Exactly. And I think what's so cool is that Hinton was only 16 when she created these characters who were so real and they've got so many layers to them.
Yeah.
Like Pony Boy, our narrator. He's only 14.
Okay.
Kind of bookish, but he's trying so hard to fit in with this tough gang.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you think that tension between who he is and who he's trying to be, you think that makes him relatable to readers even if they've never been in a gang?
Oh, absolutely. He's got that outsider vibe even within the greasers.
Yeah, interesting.
You know what I mean? It's like he's an outsider in a group that's already on the outside.
That's a great point.
Right. And then there's Derry, his oldest brother.
Yeah.
That guy, he's carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. He has to be both parent and provider for his brothers.
Right.
And it changes him, makes him tough around the edges.
Yeah, you can really see it.
But then you see those little moments where his love for his brothers shines through,
It's really sweet. And when you think about it, Derry's situation wasn't uncommon back then, especially in working class families.
Right.
He had to give up his own dreams to take care of his brothers.
Yeah, totally.
It just shows the kind of tough choices people had to make. Choices teenagers still face today, right?
Oh, for sure. For sure. And then, of course, you've got Soda Pop, the middle brother. He's all charm. So cool. Drops out of school to help Derry. I just picture him as the glue, holding the family together.
Definitely.
But speaking of complex characters, there's Dally.
Oh, yeah.
He's the one with the really hard shell. But every once in a while, you get those glimpses of his softer side, especially when it comes to Johnny.
What stands out to you about Dally's softer side? It seems kind of at odds with his, tough guy persona, right?
Yeah, I think it's that he genuinely cares about Johnny. They all do. But with Dally, it's almost like he sees a little bit of himself in Johnny. And he wants to, protect him from becoming too hardened by the world,
That's a really insightful observation. It makes you wonder what happened to Dally in the past. What made him close himself off like that?
For sure.
Yeah.
And then there's Johnny, the pet of the gang, the one everyone wants to protect.
Yeah.
You just ache for that kid. He's sensitive and abused at home.
He's definitely the one who tugs at your heartstrings.
Yeah. And reading about his, vulnerability set against this gang life.
Right.
It just, I don't know, it makes you think about how some kids, have to grow up way too fast.
It's interesting you say grow up too fast because that really was a huge part of youth gang dynamics back in the 1960s.
Oh, really?
Yeah, these gangs weren't just about kids looking for trouble, A lot of times they were formed because these kids needed protection. They needed to belong somewhere, in a world that felt, pretty hostile.
So it wasn't just about, being cool or rebellious or something.
Right. For a lot of these kids, the gang was their family. It was the place where they felt safe, accepted, understood, that need for connection, especially when they felt like outsiders in society. It's a huge theme in the book.
Yeah, I can see that. So for our listeners, think about this for a second. Which greaser do you feel like you connect with the most so far?
Yeah.
Is it Pony Boy with all those struggles he's got going on inside? Or is it Derry with all the responsibility he's shouldering?
Yeah.
Maybe you're more of a Soda Pop with that easygoing nature. Or are you drawn to Dally with his guarded heart?
It's a tough choice.
I know, right? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Now, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about that clash that really drives so much of the conflict in The Outsiders. The socks versus the greasers.
Ah, yeah. That's where it gets really interesting.
Right.
Hinton really unpacks the social divide of the time, and she does it in a way that's so vivid, so raw that you can't ignore it.
Yeah, it's not just kids from different sides of town. It's like they come from different planets,
Okay.
And She uses all these details, like their clothes, the cars they drive, even the way they talk, to really show that divide.
Yeah.
I mean, remember that line from Bob, the sock, when he calls the greasers, he says they're white trash with long hair?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's rough. That's not just an insult. It's like dehumanizing.
It is, and it really highlights the prejudice and stereotypes that fueled that whole rivalry.
It's true. And then, Ponyboy throws it right back at him, calling the Sox white trash with Mustangs and Madras.
He doesn't hold back.
No, he doesn't. And it shows that both sides are kind of trapped in this cycle of judging and misunderstanding each other.
Right. They're both playing into the stereotypes.
Yeah, exactly. But here's the thing that I think makes it really interesting. Hinton doesn't let us just settle into this easy good guys, bad guys thing.
Yeah. She complicates it.
Yeah, she gives us characters like Cherry Valance. She's a sock, but she's different.
Right.
She breaks the mold. She actually becomes friends with Ponyboy and Johnny.
And she even admits that things are rough all over. Right?
Exactly. I love that line. It's like this little reminder that even though they seem so different, there's this shared human experience that connects them,
For sure. And Cherry's character is so important because she challenges that idea that these two groups are completely separate.
Right.
I mean, she sees the humanity in the greasers. And I think that's a really powerful message, especially in a story about social division like this.
Yeah, totally. And it makes you think, hasn't everyone felt judged at some point,
Oh, absolutely.
based on how you look or where you come from? Like, have you ever been on the receiving end of that kind of stereotype? I mean, The Outsiders really captures how much that hurts.
Yeah.
And how sometimes the people you least expect can surprise you with their understanding.
It's a good reminder that we shouldn't judge a book by its cover, right?
Right. And that's something we'll be exploring even more as we dive deeper into The Outsiders.
Yeah, and it makes you think, like, have you ever felt like that? Not really belonging?
Oh, totally. I think everyone's felt like an outsider at some point.
Yeah, and it's something Hinton really explores throughout the book. Not just between the Sox and the Greasers, but even within the groups themselves.
Right. Like Ponyboy, even though he's a greaser, he doesn't always fit in, He's got this thing for books and poetry
Right, totally.
that sets him apart from the others.
Exactly. And that conflict inside him, that feeling of being different even when you're with your own people, I think it adds a whole other level to the idea of being an outsider.
Yeah, for sure.
And then there's Johnny, who doesn't even feel accepted by his own family.
Oh, man. It's heartbreaking when you think about it. He's just looking for somewhere to belong, someone to love him, unconditionally.
Yeah.
And he finds it with the greasers. But even that can't erase all the pain from his past.
No, it doesn't. His story is like this really powerful reminder that sometimes the people who hurt us the most are the ones who are supposed to love us, And it's in this context of feeling lost and alone that the violence starts to escalate. Remember that scene where Johnny gets jumped by the Sox?
Oof. Yeah.
So intense.
So unsettling, especially knowing what happens later. It's like that attack just sets off this chain reaction,
Yeah.
leading to the tragic events at the park.
It's a pivotal moment, that scene. It really shows just how dangerous, how brutal that rivalry between the gangs could be. And it forces Johnny and Ponyboy to make a choice. A really big choice.
They have to run.
Right. They go on the run and Dally's the one who helps them. Even though he always acts like he doesn't care.
It's like he's all tough on the outside, but
Yeah, but underneath.
he really cares.
Right. And this is where we see it, right? He's fiercely loyal to his friends, especially Johnny. And I think he sees a little bit of himself in Johnny.
Yeah.
That vulnerability. He's determined to protect him.
Yeah, he gives them money, a gun, a plan to hide out in this abandoned church. It's like he's not just sending them away to escape the law, but to escape their lives. To figure themselves out.
It's almost like a journey for them, right?
Totally.
And it's fascinating how Hinton uses that time they spend in hiding to let Johnny and Ponyboy really think about their lives. Who they want to be. Remember when they cut and bleached their hair?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that wasn't just about disguising themselves. It was
Right.
symbolic. Right.
It was like they were shedding their old identities.
Exactly. They're trying to disappear, become someone new, someone who isn't defined by this sock greaser conflict anymore.
It's a huge shift for them. And while they're hiding, Dally risks everything to go see them,
He does.
keeping them updated about the rumble that's coming up between the gangs.
Yeah.
He's like their lifeline to the world they left behind.
He can't stay away, even though he knows it's dangerous.
Yeah.
And then Johnny, even though he's terrified of getting caught, decides they need to turn themselves in.
He doesn't want Ponyboy to live life on the run.
Right. He's taking control, making a huge decision. And it's during that conversation that we get this glimpse into Johnny's home life.
Oh, yeah.
Remember he asks Dally if his parents have been worried about him?
Uh-huh. And Dally says, no, they haven't.
Oh.
It's like this punch to the gut, just realizing how little he means to his own family.
It's so sad. And it just makes his connection to the Greasers even stronger, you know?
Yeah.
They become his real family, the only place he feels truly loved and accepted.
Yeah, exactly. And then just when it seems like things might be okay, heading towards some kind of resolution, everything changes. Disaster strikes.
The church catches fire.
With kids trapped inside.
And we see right then who these Greasers really are. They're not the hoodlums everyone thinks they are.
Without hesitation, Johnny and Ponyboy risk their lives to save those kids. They don't think about the danger.
They just act.
It's pure instinct.
And that moment just blows apart all the stereotypes, right? Like,
it shows that compassion and courage, it can exist anywhere.
it doesn't matter who you are or where you come from.
Right. And Dally, he hears about the fire. He races to the church.
He doesn't even hesitate.
And joins the rescue.
It's like in that moment of crisis, all the differences just disappear.
Yeah. Socks, greasers, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They're all just humans trying to save these kids.
Exactly. Hinton's so good at using those moments to highlight the things that connect us all.
Yeah, but their heroism comes at a cost. Johnny gets hurt. Badly.
And Dally, he's shaken,
Yeah.
really shaken.
And as Johnny's fighting for his life in the hospital, Ponyboy's just trying to cope with everything that's happened.
Right. He's in denial.
Clinging to hope even though I think deep down he knows.
He's going through anticipatory grief. It's what happens when you know you're about to lose someone you love. And it comes out in all these ways: anger, confusion, denial. He starts lashing out at Derry, shutting everyone out. He even starts seeing Bob, the sock Johnny killed, in a different light.
Oh, yeah, that scene where he talks to Randy, Bob's best friend.
Yeah.
And he can picture Bob's face, and it wasn't a hateful face. It's so powerful. It shows that he's starting to see past those stereotypes, to recognize that even people you think of as enemies,
Yeah.
they're still human.
Exactly. And then there's Randy himself. He represents this change that's happening within the Sox.
Oh, yeah.
This disillusionment. He decides not to go to the Rumble, tells Ponyboy it's pointless, that fighting won't bring Bob back.
Wow.
It's a huge decision for him. He's rejecting everything his social group stands for.
It's like he's saying enough is enough.
Right. He's acknowledging that the violence has gone too far. It's destroying everyone.
Yeah.
And his choice to walk away from the Rumble, it's a powerful act of defiance. He's not going to conform anymore.
It's a turning point. So the Rumble happens, and it's brutal.
Yeah.
The Greasers win, but it doesn't feel like a victory.
No, it doesn't. It comes at a cost.
Yeah.
A big one. Johnny dies. And it destroys Dally.
Yeah. It's like he loses the only person who ever really understood him.
And he just can't handle it.
Yeah, the scene where he robs the store and then pulls out the unloaded gun, he's basically challenging the police to kill him.
It's heartbreaking.
He'd rather die than live in a world without Johnny.
It's a tragic end for him. A really complex and troubled character.
And it all falls on Ponyboy to make sense of it all. All the loss, the pain. He has to deal with the trauma, process the deaths of his friends, and somehow find a way to heal, to move on.
It's a heavy burden for a kid to carry.
It is.
And it's through writing that he starts to find his voice, his purpose. The book we're reading, The Outsiders, this is Ponyboy's story.
Right.
His way of dealing with everything that happened. He's using the power of storytelling to honor his friends, to explore these themes of social injustice and finding your place in the world. And in the end, I think he's trying to offer a message of hope, of resilience, to anyone who's ever felt like they don't belong, like an outsider.
It's a powerful message.
And in this last part, things get really, really intense.
They do.
The rumble, between the Greasers and the Sox, it's getting closer and closer.
Right.
The tension is so thick.
Oh, you can feel it.
It's like the culmination of all that resentment, the misunderstandings, the violence. It's all been building up to this.
And for both sides, the stakes are so high.
They are.
Especially for the Greasers. They're fighting for their pride, their turf, their identity, everything.
Right.
And meanwhile, you've got Ponyboy in the middle of all this,
Oh, yeah.
dealing with so much.
He is.
Johnny's still in critical condition.
Right.
Ponyboy's desperately trying to hold on to hope. But I think deep down, he knows,
It's that anticipatory grief, like we were talking about before. When you know you're about to lose someone,
Yeah.
it manifests in all these different ways. Anger, confusion, denial. He starts lashing out at Derry, pushing everyone away.
Right.
And he's even starting to see Bob, the sock Johnny killed, in a different light.
Yeah, that part where he talks to Randy, Bob's friend.
It's powerful.
And he says that he can picture Bob's face.
Yeah.
And it wasn't hateful,
Yeah.
It just really shows how Ponyboy is starting to see past all those labels.
Right.
Like recognizing that humanity, even in someone you consider an enemy.
It's a sign that he's growing up,
Right.
becoming more empathetic. But it's also, it's a part of grief.
Right.
A part of trauma. He's dealing with guilt, questioning everything,
Right.
trying to make sense of it all.
And then there's Randy.
Yeah.
He kind of represents that change that's happening, like within the Sox.
Yeah. That disillusionment.
He decides not to go to the Rumble.
He doesn't.
He tells Ponyboy it's pointless, that fighting won't bring Bob back.
It's a huge decision.
It is.
He's rejecting everything his social group stands for.
It's like he's saying, I'm done with this.
Right. He sees that the violence is just destroying everyone. And him walking away from the Rumble, it's a powerful statement.
So powerful.
Like he's not going to play by their rules anymore.
So the Rumble does happen, and it's brutal. The Greasers win, but it doesn't feel like a win.
No. It's a hollow victory.
There's a cost.
A huge cost.
Johnny dies.
And Dally just falls apart.
Like completely loses it.
He loses the only person who really got him, who understood him.
And that scene where he robs the store
Oh, man.
and pulls out that unloaded gun.
It's like he's asking to die.
He would rather die than live in a world without Johnny.
It's so tragic.
And then it's all left up to Ponyboy.
He has to figure it all out. All the pain, the loss.
Yeah. Deal with the trauma, the death of his friends, and somehow find a way to be okay.
To heal.
It's a lot.
It is.
And he finds his way through writing.
Yeah. He finds his voice.
Right.
His purpose.
And the book we're reading, The Outsiders,
Yeah.
that's Ponyboy's story.
It's his way of processing it all.
Yeah.
He's honoring his friends, exploring those themes of social injustice, of trying to find where you belong. And I think ultimately he's giving us a message of hope.
Of resilience.
Yeah, for anyone who's ever felt like an outsider, like they don't belong.
It's a powerful message. It really is.
It really resonates.
And that's why The Outsiders is still so relevant.
Decades later.
Because we've all felt that way. Like we're on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
That longing to be accepted, the struggle to find your place, the pain of loss, the power of love and friendship. Those are things we all experience.
It's universal.
Yeah, it's like Hinton saying you're not alone in this.
Right. Even in the midst of all the darkness, the hardship, there's still hope.
Wow, what a journey this deep dive into The Outsiders has been.
I know, right?
Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Cliffhangers and Page Turners for more amazing book discussions. And be sure to tune in next week for episode 4. We'll be talking about a thriller, The Crash, by Frieda McFadden. Until then, happy reading.